they have a free plan for 1 month. They have a free plan for 1 month.
Okay.
Month of April, it's free. Pluralsight can be very heavy because it's designed for businesses. So a business can get access to, can pay Pluralsight for access, and then they will now grant the access to their developers. So the developers can upskill their skills. So it's a single course. It's called HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the big picture. So if you register, you can look out for this course. In addition to that, they have what is called paths. So as you can see, I am taking their Java path. These were the paths that I was taking in the past. There was a time they opened it up for 1 week, 1 weekend. So I registered for these other paths, but then they shut down, so I didn't have access to them until now. Since they have my account, they granted one month access for free. So I was able to get it. I will show you guys something, because so you won't make the mistake to register for the one that is try for free. That's not the one you will go for. The one you go for is at the top. The moment you get to the site, at the top of the site, you would see where it is. Here, this one.
Okay.
Free April. Stay home, skill up.
Okay.
So then you sign up. It takes a while before they will review your documents and then grant you access. And then when you register, you can then go for the path. I always go for this one, but sometimes you may just want to get quick overview of stuffs and then go for it, which is also good. But yeah, I don't usually do. I go for paths. It can be long, but then I can get something. The funny thing is, look at this, guys. This is where you see that some languages are not friendly. Look at this. Java language fundamentals. I mean, when you say something is fundamentals, it means that it is like the basic stuff, right? But
yes,
look at how many hours for fundamentals, guys.
Fundamentals. 14 courses, 45 hours.
And I showed Mr. Jide, he said they are mad. 45 hours for just fundamentals of Java. Some languages are not friendly. They are not friendly. That's why people go for JavaScript, especially people without a CompSci, computer science background like us. Anyway, so I hope you guys downloaded Figma.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay, because we really don't have to delay anymore. We can just go straight to what we want to do. There is absolutely no reason to delay anymore. So if you downloaded Figma, did you also register to Webflow?
Yes, yes, we just did now.
Okay. So just give me a moment. Let me close so it's not distracting. Close this one. Okay. So this is where I'm going to start the entire thing. First, we will start from Webflow. And the reason I want to start from Webflow is so I can show you guys Webflow in a nutshell. Okay, so this is the stuff you guys saw. All right.
Yeah.
And this is the GUI. Basically, GUI means graphical user interface. So instead of typing out CSS, you click to get CSS. So that's the meaning of GUI. So instead of me typing CSS, I will be clicking, and then the click will end up giving me CSS. So this application, this web landing page that I built, this is a CSS that the application Webflow has generated for me. If I had to type it by myself, it would take a long time, and it's actually possible. I mean, I've done projects where I typed out the entire CSS. So it's very possible to do that. And many developers do. But in our case, it's going to be very difficult to learn if we have to type the entire thing. So this is what I'm going to show you. When you register to Webflow, okay, you will have access to, this is what you're going to see. So you see something like this. So this is me. In your dashboard takes you to like a pre-staging area where you can either choose previous projects you've done, or you can start a new project. Okay, so I'm going to walk you guys through the process on how you can start the whole thing. So I'm going to say start a new project, and automatically it gives options, but if you have an upgraded plan, then you have access to this. Some of them just gives you access to preview, and some, I don't know, I haven't used it before. So since we want to do our stuffs, now I can't actually create anymore because it only gives you access to two projects. So I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to delete this one. All right, so now I can, so that's the free plan. So I'm using a free plan. Okay, so now I can choose. So this is what you guys will now see. Initially, when you get to that part, it will be empty. And then you will then say new project. Okay, then you select, and then you give it a name. It will come up with a default name. I usually don't like the default name. Oh, what happened? Yeah, that's React happening. So training project. So there are two things you guys can do. You can follow along if you want, or you can watch since it's a recording and review the recording. So either one is fine. Okay, so when you log in, I mean, when you get to the, you've gone past the creation of the project, this is what you will then see. All right. So I'm going to take a moment to explain the interface. So basically, this is the interface. In programming or any application, there is always the interface. So yeah, I think that's self-explanatory. Which basically means as a developer, when you're building a tool, you also would probably think about, the interface for the developers or for the users. But yeah, so this is the first thing you see. It's spread out like this because I zoomed in. So let me zoom out a bit. I zoomed in so you guys can see it. Okay, so at the top here is like your main menu. Basically the menu that takes you out of this environment, like the top menu, like if you go to your Windows, you see files menu, that's like the top menu. Then you can have the menu which directly relates to the document. So this one takes you out, this takes you back to the dashboard where you create the project. This takes you to this editor itself. And the project settings takes you to where it asks you for billing. So we can explore them in any case. So this is the billing, hosting, SEO, backups. You can backup, you can do integration, custom code, fonts and stuff like that. Okay. And
so I also, before you proceed,
yeah,
so the backup here on these on this project setting,
yeah.
right? Is it that you've been able to back up what you did earlier?
I mean, it really doesn't matter because in a way, the whole thing is backed up in any case. They're using Amazon in the background, and then everything you do is saved. So it's auto save basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'll show you what I mean. So if I go to the project, for instance, this other project, okay, you will see a sign here. So you see unsaved changes. You see that?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I like click here, you see, now it's turned to green. Changes saved. So it's auto save in any case. So you don't have to look for Control S. It saves
Where is
it.
it saved?
Huh? Oh,
Where
it
does it
saves
save?
to your account. It saves to your account with them. So they have abstracted a lot of things away from you so you can focus on design. That's the essence of this application. That's why we're using it.
Okay.
You don't have to
Okay.
think about all those things, so you can focus on designing and coding, actually basically designing. Because by the time you think in those things, it's taking some cognitive tasks from you. So this is why the tool is so powerful. We focus mostly on design. So, and the reason, like I said in the last session we had, the reason why we're using this application is that so we can build an application and see the process of building the application so that when we go back to VS Code, we will be making reference to this application rather than thinking like, so I will say, so let's build a container. You guys will be like, why do we need a container? And then I will say, let's put another container inside of the container. You'd be like, why? But when you see how the process, how developers do it, then when you go to code to write the code, it becomes a lot easier because you've seen it and you know how it is done. When I say, let's give it a class name, you'd be like, if you don't understand the concept of classes, you won't understand CSS in any case. Why are we putting classes? Why do we need a combo class? Why do we need this high font 4075? Why do we put this font 18? Why? Well, if you see it, then you know why. Okay? So
Yeah.
this is why we're taking this approach. As against going in CSS and typing something. If I tell you, so put flex box and then put the flex direction to wrap, you'd be like, so why? That's the first question you ask me. I know, so I don't want to get to that situation where you guys will be asking me why all the time. So in any case, let's continue. Oh, wait, let me use this because this is far better. Just a moment, guys. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because with the headphone, it helps me not to scream.
Yeah, it's soundproofed now, which is okay.
Cool. All right. So you've seen the project settings. The dashboard goes to the dashboard. The editor is where we currently are. We are in the editor. Or pretty much it takes you to, okay, it takes you to, Okay, okay. Now I know where it takes you to. So it takes you to the CMS platform, content management system platform, where your customers, anyone who is using the website, can make edits. So the way it works is that it's a content management system. When something is a content management system, like WordPress, have you guys heard of WordPress?
Yes, yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So WordPress is a content management system, which basically means that you can update content. The content is associated to a database, so data is persisted. So there are so many content management systems. WordPress is one of them. There is Contentful. Contentful is mostly used by JavaScript developers because it uses like JSON formats and GraphQL, basically objects in JavaScript. JavaScript object structure to through data. So many developers, JavaScript developers, love it a lot. So those are content management systems. So this button is for. So the way Webflow works is that you don't have to go to somewhere to, like in WordPress, where you will log in and then you go to post section. You will now put the post and then you put the title and then you click publish. The way it doesn't work that way. Your users will type into the page like this. So that's what this thing means. So it wants, if I go here, so my user, it will ask my users to log in, and then they will then be able to make changes to the page itself and publish. So that's the way these guys work. It's abstract, but then anyway, I just wanted you guys to know that. But that's by the way. All right. So back to our training. That's we've already covered is 3. Okay. At the top here, you will see it provides you the 3 views, and it has a star here, which basically is telling me that I am on this view. And then there is the dark background anyway. So you can already tell. So if I click this one, it goes to the second view, which is the tablet view. This one is a mobile view, but the mobile is landscape. So this is the landscape view. You're seeing all of this because I have made it to be compatible with different views. So as a developer, you have to develop for every screen. So that's basically all I'm saying. So if I go to the mobile view, which is for portrait view, then I see all of this in portrait view. Okay, so back to mobile. And in addition to that, when I'm on the desktop view, I can switch between different desktop views. This you may not understand now, so but it's going to make sense in later on when you're developing. So this is what I'm saying. So these are tablets. If you look here at the bottom, you see different tablets that use this screen size. If I go back, go to this one, you see Galaxy Tab uses this screen size for its tablet. Go to this one, iPad Pro. This one, Surface Pro 2017. So it's the same thing for different mobile views. For this mobile view, is Kindle, Galaxy Note, LG, and so on and so forth. And you can see the site is responsive for all of the sites. For this one as well, I think I didn't focus on one of them. Okay, so yeah. So you can see it's responsive for all. So as a developer, you will have to code all of this. So guys, now if you don't understand the screen size, how can you code what you don't know? All right. So this is why we're taking this approach. I'm making emphasis, I'm re-emphasizing it because it is important to know. All right. So that explains this once. Let me see. So you can still see that it gives you the screen resolution, right? Ordinarily, your browser gives you all of these features out of the box. So if I click mobile, see, I get it out of the box. Okay, so this is Brave. So you can see I get this all
already out of the box. This is iPad Pro, okay, Galaxy. So it's not something spectacular in a sense. That's all I'm trying to say. So you get it out of the box. The only thing spectacular with these guys is that when you select, we'll get to that. So let me not distract you guys for now. All right. This is to show you it's saved. This is to undo and redo. I don't have anything for now, so there's nothing to undo and redo because we've closed and reopened. So it's like when you close a file and you reopen, there's no Control Z anymore. So you make a new changes. You understand what I mean, guys?
So that one stands in lieu of Control Z, right?
Yes. Redo, undo. So if we make new changes now, then we can redo. But if we make changes and we close and we reopen, you can't redo to previous state. So it's not possible. All right, this is we've already discussed. It shows you if it's saved or not. And then this is where you export the code. So when you type, when you use the GUI to select everything, then and you can export the code here. So I currently can't because it wants me to upgrade the plan, and you can already see the CSS, right? And then the JavaScript as well. So there's really not much animation, so not much JavaScript is exported.
So the animation is the asset, Abi?
All of these things is assets. HTML is your asset. CSS is also your asset because your HTML provides the skeletal structure, like we discussed. The CSS is the styling. The JavaScript is the dynamism. So dynamism is not only about assets. Everything is your asset.
Now that you can expose.
This asset is basically the images you used. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are your assets. So like the image here, the chat app logo. So yeah, these are some of the things we will touch. Why PNG, why SVG, why JPEG and stuffs like that, because those are important things when it comes to web development. Yeah, very essential. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so on this, what is that thing that you just opened now, where you export the code, right? So if now that you've not upgraded to that plan where you can export the code, but even if you've upgraded, if you export it now, will it go to the VS Code automatically?
No. When you export it, to give you the files. That's what it does.
To save it.
Yeah, it will just give you the files, like zip file or whatever thing, and then when you open it, then you open it in VS Code.
Okay, but can't you copy and paste on VS Code like this?
No, there's some things computer will not do for you. Like it doesn't know where your VS Code is.
No, what I'm saying is that as you have not upgraded to the plan where you can export, but is it possible now to just copy the code?
No. They've deactivated. Like I can't copy.
Ooh.
They've deactivated the. Yeah. So the only thing you can do is just retype the entire thing on your own. So if you are that desperate,
there should be a way. We'll find the way when we get there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can say confidently that there is a JavaScript file that is disabling my mouse from activating the copy functions. So I mean, with the inspect here, I should be able to find the JavaScript file that will enable it. Yeah, I mean it's very possible.
It will enable this. You'll be able to copy the code, right?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
But then, if they have some things to track that changes, they can ban you for life. So why would you? If they're tracking it,
we go learn them. We go learn them still. When we get there.
Yeah, that's why it's better to just learn it, and then when you've learned it, then it's stick with you. You can redo them on your own, And if you get better, then you really won't need them anymore, because most of these
Yeah.
are basics.
That's it. Like it's even better. Yeah, like you're gonna learn more when you type it yourself. Like
Yeah.
copy and type it yourself. You get to understand it line by line.
Yes, yes. But before you know what to type, you need to know what you will type. I mean, before you type something, you need to know what you typing will do, and the product, the outcome you would get. So yeah, which is why we're doing it this way. All right, so we've covered all of this, and when you get to this part, then this is the part you publish. So I have published. That's why you guys had access to the link which I sent you, and you were able to see the application. Okay.
Okay.
So that's because I published it. So if I have a custom domain, then I can use the custom domain. So it's going to be like www.theapplicationname.com, which is more solid.
Okay. So if you want to get a customer domain, how do you get it?
It's
You
simple.
have to buy.
They have a lot of resources on their websites that you can read up. So add the site plan. So they have it almost everywhere. You will be encountering where you have to pay, like we found here, where you have to upgrade. See, this is ad hosting. So you will encounter it in several places, which in a way you'll be stuck with them. Okay, so so let's continue. I'm going to leave here because this is just to make the screen beautiful while we're doing something. Oh my God, why did I click that again? Okay. So anyway, with the click back and forth, you guys would learn from the consistent clickings. So, all right. So this is where we start CSS, guys. All right. You already know HTML. I believe you already do. What I can do alongside what we're doing here is I can in a way help you guys to see what is happening from a different perspective. All right. So as you already know, HTML, you need the boilerplate rather, which is this is the boilerplate. So you guys already are familiar with this.
Yes.
And you are already familiar that everything you put in on your page goes to your body.
Yes.
Right? And you know that this title is meant for the browser tab.
Yes.
Anything in the head here is meant for the browser and search engines. So
Yes.
anything in the head. Okay. So if everything you type goes to the body, guys, it shouldn't be surprising that the first thing you see here is the body. All right. So this is the body because this body here represents your HTML structure. Okay. So that's why you have the body. And everything you put in this document will sit inside of the body. So, good. For instance, if we need an element, remember guys, we only have two things in HTML, elements and, who can remind us the second?
Attributes.
And how do we know the attributes? How do we differentiate the attributes from the elements?
In my own layman terms, so attributes depends on like it adds to the function of the element.
It makes it makes it unique.
Yeah.
Unique from the same element of that element group. Two, it extends the functionalities or just adds to the feature.
Yes.
So a good example is if I say meta, this is a meta without any attributes.
Yes.
So this meta is not going to do anything until you provide an attribute to it. Okay. So there is a meta, I think, of description. I remember. Let me see. Meta, yeah, description, yeah. So the attributes has made this meta unique, which makes it different from the other meta or metadata. All right. And the attributes also extended the functionality of the metadata to include description, and you can add contents to it. In any case, anything that goes to the head is meant for the browser and the search engine. Please don't forget that, guys. It's very important. It's meant for the browser and the search engine. That's the two purposes everything in the head serves. And then the body is for you and I, humans, what we see. Okay, so the body here represents the body of your HTML. So very strong similarity. So there's nothing magic happening in Webflow. Webflow is recreating the things you would have typed in code. It recreates them for you by exposing you to the GUI, graphical user interface. Instead of typing code, you use graphical user interface to do the thing. So first thing first, here you have all the elements, all right? So guys, I'm going to show you. Now you have the heading and you have a paragraph. So inside of this body, we have a heading and we have a paragraph. Okay, if we check the code, we have heading and we have a paragraph. Okay, if I will recreate this thing in HTML, in Visual Studio Code, I will have to do this, type, and then type heading, and then go to the end, and then I will say paragraph, P, and then I will type lorem because I have lorem, and I can say lorem of 20. So this is the same thing recreated in Visual Studio Code. So there is really no magic happening. All right. So I need to emphasize that so you guys will see what the difference between programming in a GUI environment and programming in an environment without GUI. Okay. All right. So let's continue. All right. So this is where it's interesting to program here. All right. If I do this now, I can already see several things happening. If I'm programming in a GUI, I can already see several things happening. Number one, I can already see that the position of my elements is off. I can see that my paragraph is stretching all the way. Right, guys? You can see that, right?
Yes.
So now
So
you can
Josh,
say, yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
So like the likes of VS Code and Node.js, those guys, those ones are they are IDEs. So this Webflow is a GUI. Am I right?
It's also an IDE in a sense, but it's not an IDE where you write code. So it's not, you can't entirely call it an integrated development environment.
Okay.
In a way, it works like that. It works like that, but this is more for designers.
For designer, like
It's more for
graphical
designers.
user interface.
Yeah, because
Rather than programmers.
yeah, like rather than programmers. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's easy for you guys to bootstrap to get into programming with this because you can already visualize what is happening than having to type the code. Because if we type the code, I will have to explain all of these things to you guys. I've seen it before. I've seen it before. So with this approach, you can already begin to see the problems yourself. I don't like this font. I think I would choose another font. The paragraph is stretched. So for instance, let's show the same thing. So I'm going to, if you remember live server, guys, you remember live server?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to save it, and then I will open it in live server. So you see the same thing. All right. Why it's different here is because the number of lorem is different. So if I say lorem, I'm not sure how many lorem they're using. Maybe say 70 lorem. Okay, so you see it's the same thing. All right. So it's pretty much the same. And yeah, it's also small here. If I use this is to toggle preview, guys. This is to toggle preview. So if I check the preview, then you see it's pretty much the same. All right. So if it looks different, it's easy to tell why it's different. So if we inspect this, we can see what Arial it's using, and then we can tell why it's different. All right. But generally, it's the same. So all I'm trying to make you guys understand is that the same thing you achieve in code is by coding it yourself. It's the same thing we are doing by using Webflow. The only difference is that this will help you guys to bootstrap, to fast track the process, the learning process. That's all. Okay. So what other things can we add? Anything you can add here, you can add it there. All right. We've added heading, we've added paragraph, right? What else? A lot of things you can add. And some of these things are already pre-made for us. Okay. For instance, you have a pre-made button that has all the button styles. So with this button, if we check the code, the CSS code, okay, it didn't actually give us, yeah, I know why it didn't give us anything. So, all right. I'm going to explain what is happening here. Why we didn't see anything. By adding a div block. So I'm going to add a div block. So you can see, can you guys see the div block here?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to give the div block a color of red. All right. So this div block has a color of red. You can see it, and we can actually select the div block. But now let's preview it. On preview, we don't see it. Why? That's because Webflow is taking away those, those things. As a developer, you already have to know. A div has no form. The form of a div is dependent on the form of the things inside. Or the form of a div is defined by the size, or should I say the size that you apply to that div. But Webflow is giving you some kind of a form. This is just to allow you to take off the cognitive responsibility of thinking of a div, like where is the div? How can I find it? How can I use it? So they created some kind of an artificial div for you. But in essence, a div has no form. All right. But if we apply height and width to the form, to the div, then it takes that form. So if we say now 100 pixel for width, 100 pixel for height. Now, if we preview, then the div has a form.
Okay.
You get. So now if you come here now and you create a div, save, okay, and we go to the page. This is the page. You still don't see the div, right? So let's give this div a color of. Now let me show you what is happening with Webflow. Because we have given this div a height and color, All right, let's inspect the code now. Guys, you see that? This div now has a height and color and background. In addition to that, it gave the div a class name. All right. So this will now lead me to classes in CSS. Actually, the classes are in HTML, but the classes are relevant for CSS. So I'm going to give this HTML a class name of div block, just as it is over there. I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to create a CSS file because we need to have a CSS file, right? I'll call it style, or I can just call it main. It doesn't matter, anything you want to call it, the name is subjective. Okay, because I have the CSS file, which is an external file. If you guys remembered what we talked about, you have to link the two.
Yes.
I don't know. You remember, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now I'm going to call it main because the name of the CSS file is main.
Main.
That's why I changed the name. I could have called it style, but if I call this style and I put the link, I may be tempted to just go to the next thing without explaining this href. So that's why I changed the name to main, so that you guys will see me change the name to main, because it's easy to overlook the little things that happens, and when you try to recreate it, then you won't be able to recreate it. So that's why I'm doing some of these things. Okay, so now we are in the CSS environment, right? I think I mentioned it in the last one of our section, the CSS syntax. CSS syntax is like this.
Value,
Property. And then it ends with a semicolon. Okay, I'm going to just comment it out, but this is to show you the CSS syntax. Selector, value, and property. Selector basically means like what you should select here.
Like a target.
Exactly, like a target. Exactly. So I wanted to target the div. So I'm going to put the div, and remember the syntax, we're following the syntax above, and then we will say what we want to give it. Let's first give it a background color of red.
Yes.
And let's save it. We've linked the two files. All right, let's go to the site and check. If we check it, we don't see any color. Why? Because of the first thing we discussed. A div has no form. It either takes the form of the object inside, or you have to directly give it a form, which is height and width.
Okay.
All right. Now, to prove that to you, I am not going to give a height to this. I'm just going to put a heading inside, maybe H2 this time, and call it heading 2. All right. Now, if I save it and I go to the site, I check. So what is happening? The color is not coming out. Yeah. So
I think it's dependent on that form.
No, no. I will explain why. So the reason why is because in CSS, you can target anything inside of HTML. Anything. Actually, everything. Guys, I'll repeat it again. In CSS, you can target everything. You can select everything. Anything. I think anything is the right term, because you don't have, why would you select everything? So you can select anything in the HTML file. So that's why we are not seeing it. So because to select a particular thing, there is a way to select it, right? So I'm going to explain. You guys remember in HTML, we have elements, we have attributes. Oh my gosh, what happened? Okay, we have attributes
Yes.
and we have classes. We have IDs. Yeah, and that's all. Because HTML is not much, so there's really not much in HTML. So now the question, how do you select an element? The way you select an element, so I'm going to select this H1 element. You guys know this is the element. H1 is the element.
Yes.
The way you select an element is to say H1. And remember, we still have to follow the syntax. And then we will say background color. So this is to enforce what you have learned. So I'm repeating using the background color consistently. Save it. Now let's go to the file. Now you see we have a color
Yes.
for the heading. All right. So this is how you target or select
An element.
an element here.
Okay.
So if we want to select the paragraph, remember we have a paragraph element, which is this one, this paragraph element.
Yes.
So because it's still an element, so the way you select it is still the same. So say background color, and let's give it aqua. Save. Let's go back. You see that. Okay. So second question, how do you select a class or an attribute? All right. So in CSS, you really don't select attributes. All right. So what we do in CSS, all right, is we give a specific attribute to the element so that we can select it in CSS. And one of that special attributes that we often give to the element is class. Yeah, can you shut the door? I'm sorry, guys.
Sorry.
So now, how do we select this class? The way you select classes in CSS is to put a dot in front. So the CSS processor knows this is a class and this is an element. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out because we don't need it. We just needed to explain class and div. Okay, so let's go back again to check. Now you guys can see that I gave this red. Let me space them out so it doesn't confuse, because when people start out to learn and the things are closer, it confuses a lot. And I will reduce this a little bit so it's not going to be too much looking like a code. Okay, so I'm going to do something, guys, and I want you to tell me what I have done. Okay, look at this code, guys, and look at here. What is happening here? Who can tell me? Are you guys there?
Yes.
Sorry, what's
yes,
the question
yes.
again? Sorry.
What is happening here?
I actually have no clue what those arrows are doing. I don't know what they are meant for.
Okay.
All right, it's a content inside the div block.
Okay, what's happening to the content?
Because there is no form yet, so it's asking for you to define the form of the div. Since div doesn't have a form yet, you have to define the form.
Okay. All right. So what is actually happening here is that I have commented it out. And when you comment something out, it means the thing is there in the file, but it's not going to be rendered to the screen. All right. So a good example. I'm going to go to Booking.com. How many of you guys know Booking.com?
No,
You
I
guys know
don't.
Booking.com.
No.
It's one of the
What's it
largest.
about?
It's
Where
one
will
of the
they go?
largest booking agency in the world.
Where will they go now?
We know they go anywhere. So I'm going to check the page of Booking.com. Guys, look at what is written here. Look at what Booking.com wrote here. Oh my God, that's too much. My computer is crazy slow. All right. So can you guys read it?
You know, you could be getting paid to poke around in our code. We are hiring designers and developers to work in Amsterdam.
You see that? But when
Yes.
you check here, you don't see that on the page. You don't see that on their page.
Okay, because
All
it has
right.
been commented out.
Exactly. So that's the
But
commenting out.
is that the only way you can comment? Because I remember on VS Code, you
Mhm.
actually used a double slash.
That's okay. So different languages have different ways they comment out things.
Okay.
So for HTML, the way you comment out is this. If you check the
Okay.
CSS that we have, you will see that this is how it's commented this out.
Uh-huh.
You see,
Uh-huh.
a slash, then an asterisk,
Mm-hmm.
slash, asterisk.
Sorry.
So
Okay.
JavaScript is just double forward slash.
Aha.
So
Okay.
different
It makes more
languages,
sense now.
yeah. So I do the reason I asked is because my computer, I have this plugin that makes it look fashionable. So that's why I asked. So just for you guys to also know, when you see this thing in my code, it's my IDE that is making it this kind of interesting look. So say for instance I have equal to an exclamation. Equal to an exclamation means in programming it means uh it means no. It means cancel no. All right. You see how we changed it? Not equal to. So
So
it
sorry, take
means
that.
not
Not
Please
equal
equal
to.
to.
take that again, please.
Not equal
Please
to.
take that again, please.
So exclamation mark and equal to means not equal to in programming. So when you have an
Okay.
exclamation mark and an equal to, it means not equal to. And you can actually make it like very strict, which is one exclamation mark and two not equal to. So you see how my IDE changed that. So it's the same thing that is happening here. So the IDE changes it so it looks real for me. It helps my cognitive way of reading the code. All right. So that's why I just needed to explain that. All right, guys, let's continue. So since I have commented this out, it means in the browser, I shouldn't see this code in the browser. So if we inspect the browser, first I need to save it. And if we inspect, I'm going to close this booking.com. So just in case you guys become a really crazy developer tomorrow, you know where to apply to jobs. That's why I showed you guys that. It's one of my motivation anyway, because some companies are very explicit when it comes to employment. Booking.com is one of them. So there have been pokers in Ghana who have gotten a job with Booking.com by poking, and then they are developers. Today they are in better position. So we can't see that here, but if we inspect this page, so guys, don't be scared about this. It's that live server that is injecting it. So the live server is injecting this code. As you can see, it's here. It's commented out here. Code injected by live server. That's the way it's able to track the changes and update your browser. But in any case, This is where we are. And you can see the H2 is commented out, right? So because the H2 is commented out, if you guys can remember, we already applied the style. But because a div has no form, the div did not render anything to the browser. Okay, so it shouldn't be surprising then when you have a div block. Okay, when you have a div block, let me delete this one. When you have a div block, which you are looking at, and then you apply the color to the div block, it shouldn't be surprising when the div block doesn't come out in your browser. The reason is because Webflow gives you some kind of an artificial view of a div block, which is not real. Okay, so a couple of things Webflow does. Okay, the moment you create a div block, Webflow automatically creates a class for your div block. So guys, here, this is the div class, the div block class. And that is why when we inspect the code, okay, you see div block 2. So we've deleted the first div block, but it's left its traits there. So if we want to remove it, we'll have to go here and delete it. So if we go back to the code, we won't find it. You guys will get to this stage, okay? I don't want us to lose focus of why we're using this tool. By the way, there are jobs for Webflow developers, okay? So I don't want us to lose focus of the essence of using this tool. This tool presents the graphical interpretation of our code. It will begin to make sense very, very soon. All right. I can fasten the process, but it's not in anybody's interest if the process is fastened.
We believe you. We believe you. We appreciate the way it is now.
Yeah.
The way you are going, we appreciate.
All right. Awesome. So that's a div. So like we said, the div takes the form of whatever is inside. All right. It takes the form of whatever is inside. So Webflow allows you to click and drag. Click and drag. Webflow allows us to do that. I'm going to change the color of the div so it's going to be brighter. Over time, with the repetition, you guys will now start seeing what I'm doing. So I have clicked and dragged, and if you look here, you guys will notice that the heading and the paragraphs are now inside of this div. Okay. Now, if we inspect the div, the div has taken the form of the elements inside.
Inside it.
Inside it, exactly. Okay. So that's what has happened here. Okay. So the same thing can now be replicated here. All right. But if we want to do that in code, as you can already see, you have to manually Control X it, cut it, and paste it inside. You see? So it's the same thing that we achieve here. And now we need to target this block with yellow. Okay. I will remove all of this, which was just to prove. I haven't explained how to target an ID, by the way. We've seen how to target an element. You don't put a dot.
Yes.
For classes, you put a dot. All right. Okay. Classes are a big thing in CSS. So that's all I want you guys to take away from that. So you see, we're replicating the same thing in VS Code. All right. Now, you will see you see a white line at the top.
Yes.
And at the side as well, you see this white line. Let's look at it.
Margins.
Yeah, margins. Yeah, let's look at it in Webflow. You see it as well. All right. Now, why is it there? Okay, the reason why it's there is because of what is called. God, I love this way of teaching. Webflow has saved me a lot of stress. Teaching this in the past was hell because a lot of questions will always come up. So, uh, God, what is it called? Um, browser. Aha. So I have it here. Browser default values for CSS. So for now, if you remember in the last conversation we had, guys, we mentioned that the web works because a group of people came together and agreed and said, this is how we will do this thing. Okay. And they all agreed that if we all do it that way, it's best in our own interest. And that is what gave birth to conventions, practices, actually, it's mostly conventions. All right. So if this thing is done like this, the browser will be able to interpret it well. But if you do it in a different way, the browser will not be able to interpret it. The browser can actually render it, but it won't interpret it right. And one example I gave was to type outside of here. Never type outside of the tag. Save. We save it. Which rule of HTML are we breaking here? Guys, who can help me?
Can never type outside the HTML tag.
Which rule are we breaking? Actually, the rule is in the name of HTML.
Yes,
Okay.
everything must be inside the HTML.
What is that word? That's that word. We explained it in Yoruba.
Markup.
Exactly. Everything has to be marked up. That's the first rule. And the rule is in the language, the name of the language. HTML. We have broken the first rule, the second rule. M, markup. Actually, the last rule. But if we save it and we check the browser, if you remember we did the last time, it came out. The browser rendered it, right? Actually, the browser just dumped it there. You can't style it. So what does this mean? It means it will work. You will see it, but you are not conforming to the convention that the professionals sat down and agreed upon. That if we all agree to do this way, it is in the general interest and in the general good of everyone. All right. One good example of that is, I'm going to go back to the booking.com again, and I'm going to inspect it again. Check the page source. One example of that is this doc type declaration. If you check in our HTML, you will see the doc type declaration. For people who are not programmers, this will look redundant. Like, do I really need it? If we remove it, the web page or website will still work. It doesn't stop it from working. It still works. But then we are defiling the conventions of the language. All right. So this is what I want you guys to take out. All programming languages you see are all working because of conventions that people have had, which is why the languages have their syntax, the way you should type them. Like CSS, you need to put the curly brackets because of the conventions people had, and they had an agreement and said, this is how we're going to write it. Because of that, it is possible for new vendors to build a browser that will easily take those code and render them. But if everybody is writing CSS and HTML differently, it will be difficult to manage. Very difficult to manage. So thank God, or thank goodness for the conventions. This is why we're able to do most of the things we do today. All right. So the reason I explained those things is to explain this basic fact that when you give a H1, H1 is bigger than H2. Okay, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to, all right, then I will change this to 2. You guys notice my IDE changes the other one. I don't have to retype it. I hope you guys are noticing some of the little things that the IDE does, and that's why they are all called IDE, because they help you do a lot of stuff. And by the way, I didn't Control C and Control V. I simply combined 2 letters together, and it's rendered all of these things. It's basically Control C and Control V for me. All right, so let's go to the browser and inspect. Do you guys notice anything?
Yes.
What
The
did you
H1,
notice?
I think the size of the headers actually is in descending order.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
regardless of where you put the H6 in the body, that's, let's say you put H6 ahead of on top of H1, it will still be smaller because of the laid down rules.
So I'm going to show. This wouldn't be possible in any application. What I just did now, I didn't Control C and Control V.
Yes.
I moved them around. So this is it. So why is this possible? Okay, this is possible because when those people came together, they decided, or they agreed upon, that any time, remember when we were talking about what is happening behind the scene, it tells the computer to render a text when it sees heading, as against when it sees IMG. IMG tells the computer, initialize image rendering engine. You guys remember when we discussed it, the zeros and one.
Yes.
So it tells the machine, initialize the image rendering engine. All right. So the same thing that happens here. It tells the machine, initialize the test rendering engine. All right. So that's what it does here. Now, in addition to just rendering the test rendering engine, the browser manufacturers, okay, in collaboration with the HTML, I will call them the foundation, the group in charge of HTML. Actually, they are called W3C. Okay, they are called HTML W3C. Yeah. So this is the organization in charge of HTML. As you can see, it's the current HTML standard. It's obsolete. Okay, so this one is obsolete. Okay, they're telling me, I think they want to redirect me. Further details. Memorandum of understanding between this and this, I think something. But anyway, this is the agency in charge of HTML, guys. All right. So when these guys came together, all right, when they came together, part of what they decide, in addition to the machine initializing the text rendering engine, they all agreed that when the machine sees H1, in addition to initializing the engine that renders the text, it should give a particular CSS style so that H1 will be different from H2, and so on and so forth. So part of those initial CSS, all right, is what is called the browser. It's actually called the default browser CSS values. All right. So, okay, yeah, it's here. The table below shows the default CSS browser values. All right. Now, let's check for heading 1. Guys, heading 1, look at the font size, 2 EM. Heading 2, 1.5 EM. Heading 3, 1.7. What is happening here? It is getting smaller. 0.83 EM. And then finally 0.67 EM.
Okay, Josh,
Yeah.
please, before you continue.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm listening. I think I lost you. I can't hear you.
Kudos, we can't hear you. Nah, network. He's using Glow.
Now, I think he mutes his mic. Your mic is mute, oh. Your mic is mute. Kudus, are you there?
Okay, while we're waiting for him, I wanted to ask a question too.
Okay.
What if there are cases where you want to use the same font for either one? For is actually
it's redundant.
Yeah.
If you want to use the font family, yeah, the
same font size,
then you just leave it. Don't change the font style. Because by default, it already has a font style. Because the rendering engine will take these settings that they have already ascribed to that heading 1 or heading 2 or whatever one, it will ascribe these settings to it. So you don't see it. That's why when we just type heading 1, we didn't put any style, but it took a form. It took a form.
I wanted to ask the size. I wanted to ask about size. Oh, please, can you bring up your design, your work?
Here. Can you see? Can you see my shared screen?
Can you bring up your? Yet to see it.
This one.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. I'm saying VS Code.
So, hello,
no,
Josh.
Your project. All right. Good. So yeah. Go ahead. Good.
Yeah. The question I want to ask is, we have H1 to H6.
Yes.
And we can always select any of these headings giving them a font size, font family, and what have you.
Yes.
Now, from what you showed us on W3 schools now, on
Yeah.
the default what is it called? Properties.
Browser settings.
Yes, browser settings for each headers. Now, can we change this? For example, now H1 is having a 2EM. Can we change H2 to have the same?
Yes.
And
Yes.
they will, it means that the two of them will now have the same size.
Yes. Yes.
Aha, that's just what I want to. That's
Yes.
the one I want to know.
So let me give context. So the question will actually stick. I mean, the knowledge will stick. So the reason why you will use H1, all right, is so that if a blind person goes to your site, the
Yes.
screen reader will read to that person that this is the title. So when the person goes next and the screen reader sees P, the screen reader will say paragraph. Now, the screen reader would also know that the H1 is the main title. It's going to tell the blind person that this is the main title. In the case you have subtitle, it will tell the person that the H1 is the main title and the H2 is a subtitle to the H1. So this is why when you go to some sites, you will see this hierarchy outlined. Not so many people are following this convention. I must tell you guys. But if they follow the convention, so this is what you will see. This is H1 and this is paragraph. All right. Now, if we inspect this page and we inspect this, you see this is H2. You see that? So
Yeah.
the instances where you use H1 is not the instances where you use H2. So all of these also have where the time you use them. So often this has to do with accessibility for those who have visual impaired. You know, people who are blind generally. That's what I'm saying. So, but not many people conform to this approach. So what I can do, or what you guys can do, is you can use H2 but make it the size of H1. Now it means you are programming for those who can see. So you're using H2 to achieve the functionalities of H1 because you don't want to compromise what the visual reader, screen reader, is going to read to the person who is blind. So you don't want to compromise that. So you will now give your H2 the size of H1 for those who can see. So what you're doing in that case is you're doing what is called visual hierarchy. So a good example of a visual hierarchy is this. When we came to this site, the first thing that came to our eyes is either this virus or this thing that is written here.
Yeah.
Am I lying?
No.
So that's visual hierarchy. All right. So to further portray visual hierarchy to you guys, I'm going to look at movie posters. And then you will see visual hierarchy at work. So let's look at some visual hierarchy. There's some pictures. What came to mind with this picture? After and the beautiful lady, right? So it's either after or the beautiful lady. And then you will now start reading what is down there. So this is title and paragraph. The paragraph is the small part which you want the person to read later. Okay. Joker as well. You see Joker stands out. So first thing you see the Joker, and then you look at the image, and then you want to read the tiny fonts there. All right. So it's the same thing that is happening when it comes to design. visual hierarchy is very essential. So if we want to do visual hierarchy with this thing here, all right, we can do the same. Join the biggest online training platform. Okay, so let's look at this as an example. I'm going to remove the color from the div. Okay, and I'm going to drag this to create a padding. I'm going to use a padding on all sides. Okay, now look at that. So I have created this, and the first thing you see is the top title, and then you will then want to read what is under. Okay, so this is heading 1. I can as well use heading 2 for this. So if I click here, I will change it to heading 2, which is smaller, but says I can't increase the size to 42. Nobody said that. So you see, even the heading 2, I can make it bigger than heading 1.
This is exactly what I want to know.
Yeah.
I think I get it now.
Yeah. So as a front-end developer, you're programming for different people. The blind, the visually impaired, those who can see as well. All right. I mean, we haven't touched a design because I need you guys to understand. You should be able to make the relations to CSS and what is happening behind the scenes. So before we begin to go into like core design patterns, right? Typeface personalities and stuff like that. Okay. So, all right. So they came together and then they decided that anytime the computer, the machine sees HCs, in addition to triggering the test rendering engine, it should apply the default settings to it. And that is why we had that margin at the top. The margin we have removed already. So let's bring the margin back. Okay, so the margin is back. So you have this margin. Where is this margin coming from? So I will show you where the margin is coming from. So this is where it's coming from, guys. Margin top 0.67. So when you see something like this, you will be tempted to remove the margin on the div, because if you guys remember, H1 is slipping inside of div. But no, the margin is coming from H1. So if we check here, you will see 20. So if we make it 0, then the margin is gone. How could I have explained this to you guys if I didn't see it? So it would be difficult to interpret all of this in code. It would be too heavy. All right.
Yes.
So this is why this approach makes a lot of sense. So
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah. So and again, we've touched on classes. So if I click and if I create another div, I've created another div. All right. What the application does is it doesn't automatically give a class to the div until you apply a style to the div. So how do you know that? I've selected the div apparently, but if you check here, it says select a class or tag. What is a tag, guys, in HTML?
Tag.
Yeah, in HTML.
Yeah. I can only list examples.
Okay.
We have anchor tag.
Okay.
That's the one I can remember actually.
What you have just listed is an element.
Okay.
So yeah, I explained it in the class that I had this weekend. So if you say image element,
Okay.
image element HTML, look at what is going to show me. What did it show me here, guys?
IMG.
And what's the next thing?
Okay, IMG tag.
IMG tag. So the names
Yeah.
the names are used interchangeably
Eh,
depending on
eh,
the
eh,
context
eh.
at which it is used. For the IMG, okay, what is the IMG itself? All right, the IMG itself, all right, is actually, I shouldn't have even clicked. The IMG itself is this, an element. Okay,
What is
so
any tag?
because the tag is actually essential, because the tag is actually the markup. Is the tag that you use to mark up things. It's just like, okay, so it's more like this. It's more like this. If you want to understand
Like
it,
opening and closing.
yes. So let's say I want to have
A button.
okay, say I want to have a button of click me. All right.
Mhm.
So this is what I'm going to do. Click me. All right. So I have a click me, but the click me doesn't have a tag.
Mhm.
So what am I going to do?
You put the opening and closing tag for button.
What am I doing basically? I'm tagging it.
Yes.
So I'm going to tag it with button. This is the button closing. And then button
Opening.
opening. Now I have tagged that VS Code is competing with me. It's saying like this dude, you're stupid. Why would you do? So it's trying to help me to complete it. So if I check the page, I will see my button there. Okay.
Yes.
So the first thing I did was to type click me. I was to type, yeah, click me. And what I needed for the click me to be is to be a button. So I added the button tag. I tagged this click me with the button element. So where,
Now, this content, this click me, the
yeah,
content now, what would you represent it? We understand the elements, we understand the attributes, right? Now, tagging, we understand. We are tagging the content, which is click me.
yeah.
What are we going to call this click me? Sorry, the code terms, like what do you guys call it?
It's going to
It's
be
just the content
the content, yeah. It's
okay
the content of the
of the tag.
button tag or button element.
Okay.
So what I just did with you guys is to look at programming in 1993. HTML started officially, I think, in 1992. So look at programming in 1993. Okay. People at that time weren't going to have access to this IDE. There was nothing like IDE at the time. You type in Notepad. So the first thing you will do is to type out what you want. And then you will now tag. So basically, the way they will approach programming is something like this. The way they will approach programming is something like this. Okay, so they have the files that they want to transfer to the internet, and then they will copy it from the documents where they have it, and then they will paste it into the notepad, and then they will start tagging them. I hope that makes sense, guys.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes.
So then,
Yes.
so it's a backward thing. After you've pasted all the documents, then you start tagging them. So if this one is like when you go to Wikipedia, so they will say, okay, researcher. So let me tag researcher with anchor tag so that anybody who wants more information on researcher can click on this anchor tag and it will take the person to researcher, right? Like www.researcher. So they program backwards. It's not like now that we're programming forward. So you first create the element or the tag and then you put the thing inside. No, those days they have all the documents and they were transferring the documents to the internet. So that informed this kind of naming approach where they say target. So you target. So how do you target? And stuffs like that. Okay. So I hope that it's helping to make the connection.
Yeah. It's making sense.
Okay.
It's
So
making sense.
all right. So let's
Funny enough, the
yeah.
92 way of coding is not bad after all. Like you just copy everything, paste it there, then start tagging it. Pam, 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 pam. It's not
Yes.
bad.
No, no,
You
no.
type everything.
It's not at all. It's not at all. Because today we've become very advanced, and then we've made the whole thing very difficult for people who are just starting out to even learn anything at all, because the sophistication
It is.
has created a lot of difficulty for beginners to
So
get to it. Okay, so all right, so let's see. So basically, so they agreed, and these were the default settings that you and I will not see, or the browser is going to apply to any of these elements that you put on the document. So as you can see, we even have anchor element there. So when you use an anchor element, it automatically gives it this. So this information is relevant because when you start to create navigation bar, when I say navigation bar, I mean something like, oh, where can I even find that? So this is a navigation bar. When you start to create navigation bar, which is a link, you will end up with something underlined. So, okay, okay, I will show you what I mean. This is essential to also show. So this is a button, and the button is click me. If I save it and I inspect the button, this button is far from the kind of button I want to use. All right. So if I want to style this button, okay, guys, you have learned this thing. I'm going to repeat, so it's going to show. So BTN, I have given a class name of BTN to this button, which means I can target it here, right? BTN. Guys, will this work? If I write the style inside, will it work?
It won't,
Why?
because there is no dot
Thank you.
behind it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Targeting a class, you need a dot. So if I want the button to look like a real button, say I give it a background color of say this aqua. This aqua is good. Save. I'm going to split the screen so that we can see it happening at the same time. Now look at that. There's one stupid thing that is there that is very disgusting. It looks like 1960 button, right? So to
Yes.
remove that, now this 0. See that?
Yes.
That thing is gone. Okay. Now, if I give it a padding on all sides, maybe make it, actually, it's not going to make sense to have a padding on all sides of uniform padding. So what I can do is 10 at the top and then 15 left and right. So then it looks like a real button.
10, 15.
Okay. Now, don't think this thing, because if I were to do it in Webflow, you will see it differently. I'm able to do it because I've done it many times. So that's how I know. All right. So border radius, I'll make it 20 pixel. See that? Okay. So to make it much more realistic, I can actually, this will be difficult to write. I usually don't write it. So what I just do is shadow CSS, and then I can get it from here, box shadow. So box shadow, and then you can manipulate it to what you want. Okay, so this is very strong box shadow, maybe 5 or something.
Okay,
maybe 2. The button, the shadow is still too strong. I can say 2, 2. It's just X and Y. So you see the button looks very realistic, guys. All right. But there's something that is still happening. A natural button, when you hover, the mouse should change. So that's not happening. So then I'm going to give a pointer, cursor, and then it's now a real button. You see the mouse changes.
wow.
So there are still more things I can do.
Hey,
this pointer cursor is, I'm just seeing this one for the first time.
It's
yeah, actually,
it's normal. So one thing with CSS now, the power of classes in CSS, guys. If I copy this now and I just put it there, watch. Let me just maybe call this one register, so that you guys can differentiate the two. I'll be done soon. So you see? You see?
Okay.
Now, how can I change this? Let me even show you guys even something much more interesting, because it's still kind of boring. Okay. Say this should be dark. There's no color like dark gray. Of course there's dark gray. Okay, I'm going to use this one. Yeah, I'm going to use this one. It makes sense. Then I will change this to oh wait, sorry. So this is what I need. And then I'm going to change the text inside. I'm going to change the text inside to black. Actually, the text inside should go to white. This may seem like magic, but guys, it's not. Okay, I just want to show you guys something. So basically what I've done is this. Background color black on hover. Why didn't it work? Okay, so text white, background white. Seriously. Let me see. CSS hover. Okay, hover selector. Yeah, I suppose. Maybe because of the space. It's just the space. Okay, so guys, see.
Okay.
So it's just the space. That's why. So, that goes to following the convention. So if you don't write it the way you should write it, it's not going to work. But
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
look at the button we have created. And I mean, with good design, we can even make it much more like font family, and then we give it like we give it anything that is sans serif. So anything sans serif should work. And what are the families of sans serif? Yeah, I can actually use the first one. The first one, and I can just copy it and paste it in the other one as well. Yeah, it looks even better. So this what I've just done is what is called typeface personality. All right, it's called typeface personality. Now, if I want this button to look different from this one, I will do what is called combo. I will do what is called combo. So if I give class combo or combo class, so if I put just one thing, I can now style it differently. All right, while it retains the original form. All right, so I'm going to like copy the hover state to it. Actually, let me just copy everything and then just change the hover state. But in essence, I don't need some of this. But in any case, yeah, let me show you what I mean. Yeah, so I copied the hover state. So guys, look at it. So by just adding one more class, I can extend the feature of this. I think, yeah, I can even delete some of these things and it will retain the original state. Let me see, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, so it retained the original state. I can remove the padding, radius, remove this. I can also remove the shadow. I can remove the cursor. Yeah. So this is called, combo class, where an HTML element can have more than one, actually more than 3. Some elements have more than 5. So they inherit and then extend. Inherit and extend. It's called polymorphism in object-oriented programming, where one element can have many forms. Because in the end, it's programming language that is behind it and is making it work. Okay. All right, guys, let's round it up here. We've touched a lot of stuffs. How CSS works in details. We touched how CSS works in details, the behind the scene. We touched a bit on Webflow. You guys can actually practice some of the things we've discussed with Webflow. So you just come here. This is where you add elements. All of these things are HTML elements.
Yeah, we will.
Yes.
We will.
Okay. So when you add an element, all right, it gives you all the CSS properties that you would naturally give. Okay. So for instance, if I give the button, now I have the button here. The button doesn't have a class, but like I said, the moment you apply a style to the button, Webflow automatically gives a style. So it automatically gives a class. So I'm going to change this button color to red, maybe dark. Okay. Now it has a class of button. All right. I'm going to change the radius to round. You see how easy it is here, guys? How easy it is. And I'm going to change the font button to Open Sans. Actually, Open Sans is not the best. Maybe Lato, or maybe Open Sans. So Open Sans, but instead of normal, I use like kind of bold. Yeah, so this is fine. Then I will align to center. So you see how easy it is. So what I did with that other one, I will do the same here. All right. I will increase the padding left and right. Oh, sorry, I increased on all sides, which is wrong. So increase the padding left and right. So something like this. Okay, and make this something like 12. It's too much. Yeah. So you see the button, right? And to do on hover, this is hover, and on hover, I change the color to white and change the text to black. So guys, look at that. So the same thing we did in the code is the same thing we have done here. And when you check the code, you will see absolutely the same thing. So this is the button, and this is the button on hover. Okay, so let's round it up there. Please, guys, knock yourself out with Webflow. If you think it's malfunctioning, delete the project, add another project. So it's going to help you to see what is happening behind the scene. Then in the next class, we will now create a design in Figma, and then we will try and replicate that design either in Webflow or in VS Code. Whichever one is fine. I think Webflow will make the process fast because we can focus on design concepts. All right. I hope this has been helpful for you guys. And
Okay.
please
Yeah.
try and review other previous classes we've had, because there's some information you think you know.
Yes. Yes.
When you review them now, it should make more sense.
Yeah.